This is the Marriage and Song podcast, brought to you by Ike and Linda, where we talk everything marriage and reveal truths that create marriage harmony. Hello, everybody.
We're really excited to be coming to you at the beginning of this new year, 2018.
Absolutely. It's really good that you can all join us for our new podcast. And our focus, as the title says, is marriage and song. And I'm sure a lot of us would wonder what exactly we mean by marriage and song. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Ike?
That's right. Marriage on song, meaning marriage that's doing well, marriage that's fulfilling, marriage that's happy and strong.
Absolutely. And the other advantage we have, you and I, is that we are into music. We're singers and
that's
songwriters,
right.
if you want to use that phrase.
So I suppose you've got the whole thing about the melody and the harmony of marriage going on, and the fact that we just love marriage. We feel it's a wonderful, God-given institution. And yeah, we love to talk about marriage.
We also have a vision for seeing marriages everywhere doing well, which is one of the reasons we have decided to do the podcast series.
That's right.
Yeah.
We've, in the past, been able to talk about lots of really important things pertaining to successful marriage.
And some of these topics actually have been quite interesting, and we've had loads of comments from, at the time, viewers. And one of them, big, huge topic, is communication, isn't it?
Yes, communication as one of the essential ingredients for a successful marriage.
The question being, how do you communicate with your spouse? How do you communicate with me, Ike?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, and it's one which really you cannot get enough of. It's how couples relate to each other, how they share, how they talk, and how they understand what they are really trying to achieve at any point in time.
Suffice to say that when it comes to communication, we're all still learning. We're all still students.
Well, that's right. It's really interesting that you can never be too knowledgeable about communication, but you've just got to keep trying to improve in the way you relate to your spouse, being honest, sensitive, and open.
Yes, we're now looking forward to 2018 when it comes to our podcast topics on marriage and song. And one of the big things we're going to be talking about, really, perhaps in a second recording, will be vision for your marriage. How do you create a vision for your marriage? We have other exciting topics. You want to talk about one or two of them?
Well, things like how to have enduring passion in your marriage. Which...
Oh, can I say something about that one?
Go ahead.
We've actually just written something about how to keep your marriage passionate, haven't we?
Yes, it's a big topic. We really want to ensure that marriages remain hot and exciting, and we kind of move away from this loveless marriage situation, which from time to time rears its head.
Yeah, because sometimes when you've been married to someone for a few years, you become quite complacent about certain things, don't you? But we always need to remind ourselves, as someone once said to me, that there are particular things in a marriage that are very important for both sides, and you've got to keeping on and having the fire burning when it comes to your spouse.
Definitely. It's so important. Essentially, we're talking about the needs of husband and wife, and it's really essential that the needs of that connectivity, romance and passion are met by both husband and wife.
His needs and my needs.
That's right.
We will be also looking at key struggles in the first year of marriage. That's another one.
Yes, that's right. I think we know that marriages have to deal with a lot of things, and these things at different stages of marriage have different levels of significance, and couples in their first year might be dealing with somewhat different things from couples in the 5th year or 10th year or beyond. And so that's really, really, really important.
And I think it's also important for listeners to, especially those who are engaged or dating or yet to be married, to actually understand certain things and what to expect in those first few years. Because a lot of times, I know that when we got married, I had those crazy fairy tale, I would call it, ideas, until when it hit home that, hang on a minute, you're here now, this is reality. This is not a Cinderella kind of thing. It's lovely to have the Cinderella fairy tale story in life, but that is indeed not reality. We try to make our marriages hot, successful, happy, but we know that there are certain things that you've got to be able to be aware of, really, for the first few years.
Yes.
What other topics are we going to be? Just give our listeners a few others, exciting
absolutely.
ones.
Well, a flavour of some of the other topics, we want to look at something pertaining to the question, how can you know that you've got a successful marriage, or what defines a successful marriage? And obviously,
that's a big one.
Well, it's massive, because I suppose the first thing about a successful marriage is that you're still together. But then there are lots of other things that we could look at and say, oh, these guys have got a successful marriage. And that really will be quite an expose as to the things that we can actually put into the vision as to what we can be working towards in our marriages.
Yes, but again, someone could also ask, well, is the definition of success not subjective?
It is.
How do you know when your marriage is successful? I suppose that's one of the questions we're going to be asking and looking into, that particular aspect of things.
Definitely.
It?
Then we're also going to be looking at key areas like how can you support your spouse. It goes back again to the issue of vision and how you pursue this vision. But we know that couples that support each other are much more likely to succeed in whatsoever they're doing. And that's really important.
Yeah. Looking at other things, I mean, there's one which kind of a couple actually that make me smile. Children, how many, how quickly, and career and marriage. Those two big topics are very important also, aren't they?
Oh, they're really important because when you start your marriage, you obviously would have probably had some education, and you may be starting out in your careers, and so you've really got to weigh up how are you going to balance the whole thing with career and with children and with the demands that each of these areas bring. How do you kind of keep it all moving forward?
So I guess we have so many topics we will be looking at, and it's really, as a wife, I'm quite excited about this because I know that many of these things are going to come back to us using our own experiences as examples, and if we've got it right, or maybe we're still in the process of getting it right.
Yes.
But aside from that, suffice to say that there are a couple of themes you have been thinking about also when it comes to marriage on song,
yes.
When it comes to Ike and Linda, when it comes to our podcast. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, we have been really receiving some, what I would call, inspiration from God with regards to the areas that he wants us to focus on. We've got some topics, as we've just mentioned, but the theme behind what we're going to be sharing is along the lines of that it's time for marriages to heal.
Absolutely.
And it's time for marriages to move away from just managing to actually getting into that area of real restoration and joy and fulfillment.
Yes, and the second one?
The second one is the whole area of how good we are in our roles, and really the topic or the catchphrase, good enough. Are we good enough to be married? Are we good enough as husbands? Are we good enough as wives? And the answer is yes, we are.
Yes, and I also would say that when it comes to good enough, it's very important that as spouses we look at the person we're married to and within our hearts say that that person is good enough for us, good enough for me, good enough for you, as against looking out there to look for that woman or man who may be good enough. You chose that person, so within your heart you've got to confirm and agree that that person is good enough in good times and indeed in bad times.
That's right, because we know that one of the things that can keep your marriage relationship really strong is when you just have it settled in your spirit that the person I'm with is good for me. And that is really what it's all about. Having that settled understanding that my wife, my darling Linda, is good for me, and that's just it.
Oh yeah, so you're good for me and I'm good for you.
Absolutely, that's what it's all about.
So we're going to just conclude and hopefully come back. Well, hopefully, indeed, we will be coming back with our first topic, which is creating a vision for your marriage. But before we say goodbye, we'd also like to say that we have our blog posts.
Yes, you can find our blog at ikeandlinda.org.
And we also write for the Network Norwich newspaper, which is the Good News newspaper. And their website is networknorwich.co.uk. We will be letting our listeners know about our forthcoming gospel concert, which will be on the 8th of September this year, 2018. So we're going to round up now, and we will be back with our very first topic, which is, as I've stated earlier, creating a vision for your marriage. So from Ike and Linda, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.